Oh, there we go. Alright. Woo. Okay. Alrighty. So, I think I'm live now. Double check. There we go. Alright. Ooh. Okay. Alright, I'm live. Alrighty. So this is going to go into the live section. I'm going to probably not have this listed, but this is just me going through and doing some research on a giant list of reptiles and other stuff I find interesting. Yeah, I don't have any camera on me right now. So the thing we're going to be looking up is the cat gecko. Super interesting arboreal gecko that's partially nocturnal. First thing I do is look up the wiki. Get the Latin. I won't be able to pronounce this. And I'm transcribing this on my Google Doc. Alright, so oh, the only species, that's cool. This says, that's pretty interesting. Colorless tails. Sleeps similar to a cat. Color with white spots on its body, solid white under its chin. Some arboreal, perform cool, humid, nocturnal, insectivore. Yep, this is all stuff that if you're into reptiles, you probably already know, leading to some captivity, pet gecko, very commonly found. Heavy parasitic loads. Almost all wild types have heavy parasitic loads, and they're easy susceptible to stress. That is true. Care can be difficult. I think they've been pretty well established in the hobby now, so I think the care has been pretty much figured out, and there's really no reason to get any more wild caught specimens unless you're trying to bolster your bloodline. But these guys are fairly new to the trade, or have just taken off, I should say. So these guys probably some new blood never hurts. But I wouldn't be too worried about line breeding or inbreeding with these guys. Yep, and it's least concern. That's good. So the one thing I really like about the cat gecko is that it really looks like this other Australian gecko that I absolutely love. These guys look very similar to the Corphodactylus, and I actually have quite a few of these guys. Now, I've noticed that these guys are also semi-arboreal, and if you take a look at them, they look pretty darn similar to the cat gecko. Obviously, cat gecko is a lot more slender, but its behavior is very similar to Carfo. Of course, granted, these are two very different species, and you can't say that, this is apples to oranges type thing, because cat geckos require a bit of care when it comes down to their watering and their supplementation, and the Corphodactylus really doesn't. I think their humidity is pretty much the same, and general care of these species are the same. They're both semi-arboreal, preferring a more humid setup, more nocturnal, easily stressed, not the type of gecko you want to handle because of the buildup of stress. So I think they're pretty similar. I'm a big fan of cat geckos. I've actually seen quite a few breeders produce them. That's why I'm so interested in them. Don't have to get them wild caught. Now the Corphodactylus are a bit more rare. They do originate from Australia, so no new imports. And so what we have in the States is pretty much what we have. I was actually very lucky, and I got acquainted with somebody through social media. They actually had, they're actually breeding these guys. So I actually purchased all all of the offspring because he was getting out of geckos. He sold the adult, ready to breed parents to somebody else, but he had two hatchlings and 2 eggs. Or no, he had 3 hatchlings and 2 eggs. I got all 3 hatchlings, and then I promised him that I would pick up the 2 eggs when they hatched. Unfortunately, only one of them hatched, so now I'm left with 4. I've tried to sex them. The 3 older ones. I have. He said 2 males, 1 female. I'm looking at them, and I think it's more of 1 male to 2 females. That's wishful thinking. Of course, I'm gonna make sure, double check, keep checking before I pair them. But really, there's no hemipenal bulge. Corphodactylus gets a signature bulge on its backside, and this gecko has a really funny habit that when it's in the middle of stress or it's being observed and he knows it's being observed, they put their tails up like this. Super interesting. So this gives you a pretty good view of their hemipenal bulges if they have any, and so it's very easy to see. Like I said, 1.2, and the youngest that I just barely picked up, she looks a lot like this, a lot darker. She does not have any bulge, so they're saying that she's probably female. But again, these are all pretty young animals. I might, struck out and get all 4 males, but if that happens, I just need to hunt down some females. And even if, I get 3 females and 1 male, I'm not going to pair up that 1 male to his siblings. I really do want to get new blood, and that's where networking has to come into place. Either way, this part is not about the Corphodactylus. This is about the cat gecko. Just wanted to make a quick connection there. So very, very beautiful gecko. Now, if you hear a sound in the background, like a motor or something, that is my AC. That is keeping me from dying. So I'm gonna let that run. So usually when I'm doing some research, there's a bunch of different websites that give different information. Obviously, there's other YouTubers that are probably have much more experience than me with them. I'm not gonna look at their videos now because YouTube copyright. But I'm gonna look at the different websites and see the information. Then I'm gonna refer to their videos and see what type of care they give. And then of course I'll link them in my files and my descriptions, making sure that they get their credit for their husbandry care. So the Biodude's a pretty good source. Biodude, Supreme Gecko, they're all established breeders. So if they put up information, I'm likely to take that type of thing into account. Now, the thing I'm looking for are like the key requirements for care, like humidity, temperature, diet, type of enclosure, any lights they need, any special supplementations, the breeding, if there's anything on them about breeding, things like that. So they're semi-arboreal. I'll make a note of that. That's important for enclosure setup. You want taller. I'm not too sure how big of an enclosure they're going to need. If they need like a 12 by 12 by 18 inch, or if they need 24 inches tall, I don't know. Cool temperatures. they tell you this, but I prefer numbers. I'm a number guy, so let's see if they. Very lanky geckos, 10 years in captivity at least, so that's a pretty good. Highly sensitive to inappropriate husbandry and stress easily. They should not be handled. Yep. Oh, look at that. An 18 by 18 by 18, so they need at least 18 inches tall. Now, I'm just gonna make a note of it over here. They younger juveniles can probably tolerate 12 by 12 by 18, and depending on how heavily planted an enclosure is, maybe a 12 by 12 by 18 for an adult would be okay, but I'm not too sure. 7 inches long. Semi-arboreal, yeah, I'd give them a cube. But then again, an 18 cube is not. It's not a lot of space. I have one. I'm looking at one right now in my room, and it's not too big. Mister. Yep. Thorium size. Look at that. Males can have a smaller. Let's see. I'm just going to have the 18 cube as a base, because most of the time when you're picking up this species, or any gecko really, you're probably picking up unsexed. And let's be real here, even if there's a big size difference, it'd be nice to have a male have the same size of enclosure as a female. Now it depends. If a male only gets up to like 4 inches and the females get up to 7, I can definitely see that playing a big part. But you want to make sure that your male has enough enrichment too, and with enough size you can do a lot more things. So I'm just gonna say that the base is 18 cube. Yep, larger is always better. Absolutely. Don't know the sex of your gecko. I'll for larger. Oof, that's basically what I was saying. Cat geckos should not be housed together in the same enclosure. Look at that. Good to know. As far as I know, cat geckos are pretty solitary creatures, and they really don't hang around with each other too much. As long as they get supplemental D3 in their diet, however, such as preventing illness, improving digestive. Cat geckos are rather reported to be very sensitive to excess minerals in their diet. Yeah, see that? Now, from what I understood, cat geckos are very likely to get something like kidney failure or something. Their bodies are just not used to a lot of electrolytes and a lot of minerals in their water, and so they suffer from kidney failure. And so for these guys, you want to get extremely filtered water. If you have a TDS meter, which basically measures the amount of liquid solids in your water, it needs to come to as close to 0 as you can. I'm sure that having a threshold of like 20 parts per million would be nice, but I don't think they have that type. They don't have that information ready, unless it's somewhere in here. So for this type of gecko, you're gonna have to be using distilled water, or extremely filtered water that has pretty low TDS. So let me just punch in some of arboreal supplements. Cat geckos need supplements. D3 with caution. It is, for me, a huge risk to give them minerals if they're prone to kidney failure like that, just to give them D3. So with this species, even though I believe they do sleep under like cover for most of the day, there will be times when they're out and about and they might catch some light. If you somehow have a source of just pure D3, with little calcium, little minerals, that'd be a great source. But I would say definitely give them some UVB. In probably something like a shade dweller. Like 6% if you have Arcadia. I use mostly Arcadia. I don't know what the Zoo's Exoterra bulbs are. I run mostly Arcadia. They haven't failed me yet. So probably like something like a 6%. 12-inch. Well, the size depends on your enclosure. 18-inch tall, various distance. Basking branches at least 4 inches below. Yep, always a good 12 months. Yep. Brand matters, absolutely. That's why I use Arcadia. It's a great brand. And on top of that, the bulbs aren't too expensive. I think for a single bulb is like $20, and it runs up pretty quick if you have a bunch of enclosures. But if you have like a 48-inch fixture on multiple enclosures, that one bulb, goes a long way. Using smart power strip. Yep. Basking temperature of 80 to 82. Cool zone of 70 to 75. So the ambient temperature needs to be around 76 to 80, basically. 80's pushing it. Maybe 76 to 78. So basically, you're going to need to have air conditioning running on these guys. If you don't live in a cool area, these guys might not be too good for you. But Biodude, this is a pretty good article coming from Biodude. 70 to 75. The basking is 80 to 82. All in Fahrenheit. I don't do Celsius here. Should never rise higher than 82. Get heat stroke. Again, this is one of the species that's very you have to be very careful. It's like Europlatus and the Corphodactylus I just showed you. They do not like it warm. They like it pretty cool. You also want to be very careful on what type of heat bulb you use. They use a 25 watt, probably something real small. If you have a temperature gun, it's be really easy to measure it out. Your basking spot in the enclosure. Yeah, so you want to be careful on how much heat you give and on the humidity, I'm sure. Need a high humidity, 60 to 80, and then to 90 to 100 at night. Really, I have this, it's called a push sensor. It's like a little box. I use that to measure my humidity in all my boxes. So I'm just going to say probably something 70 to 80% day. And then 90 to 100%. So these guys like it extremely humid. Best bet would probably be hooking up if they are going to be needing that much water, they're probably going to be needing I don't want to say fogger, but a mister would work great. It's just that the mister's probably gonna have to kick on like a couple seconds every hour to make sure that the humidity stays up, especially at night. Maybe even run, maybe, at night when the lights go off, go in there and give it a supplemental spray. So for this reason, I think it'd be a good idea to have, oh my god, was it, I think Exeterra has like dart frog enclosures that has a drainage tube coming out from the bottom of it. A lot of water is going to be going into these enclosures, and it's going to waterlog a lot of things. So having some drainage out of the tank itself would probably be a good idea. Mister every morning and evening when it's dark. Cool mist humidifier at night. You can always running a humidifier. It's a good idea. Use RO or distilled for misting, not tap, spraying, or softened. Very important. A lot of people think they can get away with this until their things start crashing. I actually have quite a few carnivorous plants. I used tap water once on them, on a particular plant my brother gifted me, and it lasted all of 5 days before it crashed. So that's a plant. But with these animals, just a little bit can, cause damage to the kidneys. And this is a fairly sensitive animal, so you want to make sure that it doesn't get hurt. Yeah. So humidifier, mister, fogger, all those things will work. There's also, I think, water atomizers. Yeah, you can have like a water feature inside of the enclosure, have the atomizer in there, and it'll like create fog, like at the water level. So it helps increase humidity levels, but it doesn't go all the way up to the top, and threaten to cause pulmonary issues with the gecko. So there's that too. Bioactive substrate. Yep. It's probably the works for a bioactive animal. This much humidity, you probably have to make it bioactive, because you probably run the risk of creating a mold farm. Make sure that you got isopods and springtails. Depending on your setup, if you are looking to breed, if you do have a female, maybe be careful with your choice of isopods. I know that some isopods are more protein hungry and they'll nibble on the gecko, or some of them are more likely to chew on calcium eggshells. So when your gecko lays eggs, the isopods might get to the eggs before you do, and they might nibble on them. So be careful on what you choose. There's obviously some good isopods that won't do that, or people that have never had issues with it. But I've just heard through the grapevine that this has happened before. And people usually don't talk about their failures, right? People usually talk about what they've done right. So probably like stick to springtails or dwarf white isopods. I'm not sure, but just be careful. Be careful what you choose to make your substrate bioactive with. Blue orange, dwarf, springtails for sure. Earthworms would probably be a good idea too. Earthworms really don't nibble on eggs, and if you have an 18 by 18 by 18 well planted, this earthworms will really help. Decorating, yeah. There's some arboreal, and they'll probably need twigs. Manzanita would probably be a good bet for these guys. Manzanita and cork. Cork flats and hollows. Manzanita branches. Manzanita, because Manzanita holds up really good against water. And foliage give them ample opportunities. Live plants in particular are really good. Obviously, they keep things moist. Cat geckos, insectivores, varied diet of insects, feed juveniles daily and every other day. They don't need much, 2 to 3 bugs, smaller than their heads. Yep, this is the common guideline for geckos. Variety. Safe. Crickets, dubia, discoid, snails, isopods, hornworms, silkworms, plex. Basically the works. The gecko work. I'm just gonna say gecko chow. Let's be real here. Okay, outside of health checks, right? You obviously want to check on your gecko to make sure it's doing okay, make sure that it's doing right. You're not going to pick this up and hold it like a leopard gecko, right? If you're going to hold it, it's going to be momentarily just to look at how it's doing. Well, more the droplets produced by missing. That's not to have a water dish. Not to have a water dish. The dish should be small, shallow, kept clean. Great disinfectant to encourage bacterial growth. See, that's this with bio, dude. If you are giving this gecko this amount of water every single day, keeping the humidity between 80 to 100, 70 to 100%, that's a lot of water going into the enclosure, a lot of humidity, a lot of opportunities for these geckos to lap up water either from the glass or from the leaves of plants you're going to be putting in there. Having a water dish in there, all that's going to happen is dirt's going to get in there. It's going to be, or, it's going to be rarely used. And so bacteria build up in it and the gecko will drink from that. So even though Biodude saying, there's no excuse not to have a water dish, this is a very humid species. If you have like a leopard gecko or a crested gecko where they need water, but not as often as these guys. Yeah, have a water dish in there. Why not? It never hurts. A water dish, for an arid species really isn't a bad idea, right? They live longer in captivity for a reason. But this is a bit of a stretch. They're getting enough water as it is. So I wouldn't really recommend putting a water dish in there just to have a nice dish of bacteria cultivating inside the enclosure. Alright, so as far as I know, these guys cannot be continually cohabbed. They're solitary. So, no. As far as brumation, I've never seen anybody refer... no one really refers to brumating these guys. They come from Malaysia, so I don't think these guys really get a cold period, because I'm pretty sure it stays pretty much above a certain temp all year round. Granted, they already take really cool temps, 70 to 75. Plus night drop. Backwater. Yep. Oh, the names. You gotta be careful though, because the Malaysian and Borneo cat geckos are a little different. Locality matters and preservation. So if someone tells you it's a Borneo, look up and see if it really is a Borneo, and make sure that your labels stay correct, because you don't want to mix them up. You don't want to contaminate the bloodlines and locales. Solitary, highly territorial. Males will often engage in vocalizations. Yep, they squeak. One of the most remarkable. Oh, they have temperature dependent sex. Oh, look at that. I know for the defense behaviors, when threatened, they will wave their tail. Yep. They'll never be as perfect. Huh. Good to know. Let me see here. So it loses me. Temperature dependent sex determination. Very cool. It'd be cool if they gave us a temperature range. They're very skittish, warm up easily. I'm pretty sure. They're very territorial, highly arboreal. Yep. I do know they tend to sleep curled up in the like leaf litter, so that's always a good idea to give them some leaf litter. Yep. Drop their tails, egg layer, clutch size 1 to 2 eggs, an incubation of 70 to 100 eggs. Good info. They have such a wide margin, 70 to 100 days. That's a 30-day difference. I'm pretty sure that males born a lot faster, right around 70, and the females take a bit longer at 100. Now, it doesn't really say whether or not the type of eggs they produce, whether they're soft or hard. That's important to know. But because these guys don't lay sticky eggs, or they don't stick it to a wall or glass, them having hard wouldn't really matter, as long as you're careful in retrieving the eggs. Temperatures. Yep. Nope. UVA, UVB required. I would say these are temps. They messed up. Yeah, beginner gecko. I don't believe it. And some good information there. Curling up tails, yep, super cute. Lightly build. Cambodia, Thailand, 10. Advanced, alright. Hide box. You won't really need a hide box unless you're not doing bioactive, which you strongly should. A lot of plants go a long way. For substrate, obviously you're going to need something that retains humidity without molding over. Sphagnum, peat, coconut coir mix, long fiber sphagnum, mix of sand in there to keep the soil a little light and well draining. Some pumice maybe. Yep. And you layer it, obviously. Yep, anything above 83 will cause problems. Winter temperatures are from 66 to 70 during the day, 62 to 65 at night. Lowest temps, they drink at night. I don't really see a reason why you should have a dish. If you have a dish of distilled water, there's no reason. You should be misting regularly with distilled. 65 to 90. Hand mist. Once you hook up a reptile to a mister that has a set schedule, it's almost like the animals can watered, you know? So it's never a bad thing. Mist detrimental to the species. Much better. Misting is detrimental. I don't think they used the right word here. I don't think they used the right word here. It's not, misting is not detrimental. It determines how it's going to do in captivity, but recently acquired, cannot eat for the first. They're stressed. Once, comes from 36 bugs every 2 or 3 days. Isopods. Crickets, dubious snails, phoenix, hornworms. All prey items. Yep. Don't touch them. Cleanup crew. And eat your shed. Good. Prone to kidney stones. Yep. A regular tap can be fatal. Hydration. Supplemental food items very rarely. Round your rates. Fatty liver. Yep. All information. These guys needing breeding supplements? I don't think so. So the more you look into these care sheets, the more you'll find that a lot of the same information is being repeated. The ranges are a little bit different, but sometimes they include little tidbits of information that you didn't know before, like maybe they're temperature dependent sex determination, or TDS. Whether that's true or not is up in the air, because I haven't seen another article that corroborates it, and they didn't give me a temperature range either of incubation, so it's up in the air. Oh, that's my AC kicking on. You need a bioactive for them, yes. Yeah, gecko, no more 2-3 times every 2 to 3 days. Yep. Enclosure measuring 12 inches by 20 or larger. 12 by 12 by 20. This from Zilla, 16 by 16 by 22. Obviously an 18 cube. It's just that with the cube, it doesn't have as much height. You want to go higher, that's fine. The footprint doesn't really matter. You want some more height, so obviously if you can get this would be better for them. But I think an 18 by 18 by 18 is enough space, and it gives enough height to get the gecko off the floor. Hiding spots, a lot of leaf litter and a lot of plants. Temperature ranges 72 to 80, 78, 66 to 72. We'll always do better. Addition of UVB. Everybody says it's almost like the entire internet's gonna bully you if you don't give your gecko UVB. In this case, you do want to give them UVB simply because you don't want to supplement their D3. So UVB makes sense for these guys. But we'll see. 10 to 12, humidity levels high. Misting with RO or distilled is necessary. Saturation, substrate layer is to be avoided. Yeah, so that's why I said if you get the 18 by 18 by 18 by Exeter, the one that has a draining hose on the bottom built in, you can avoid this. You can pretty much flood your substrate. Have like really plants that really love to be waterlogged, and then just pour out the excess that flows down into the tube. Can they live together? No. Yeah, avoid one male to male keeping. Female to female, I don't know. I'm not too sure about that. So I'm getting a lot of information on generalized care, and not too much on the breeding. Very cool geckos. Look at that. Very cool. I like the way they wrap up their tails. Very slender, very cool. Oof. Like a cinnamon bun. Cinnabon. Ah. Sulky raptors. Yep. And then they... yeah. So it makes sense. Reptarium. Now I'm just going into the backlist of the Google. But again, here's the price. It's already sold, but I'm pretty sure that there's always someone breeding these guys. Or not. Look at that. But yeah, usually these guys are available. They're not too hard to find as long as you can do a Google search. Someone out there is reproducing them. So humidity 70-80% a day, 90 to around 100. Just a humidity bump at night. Temperatures ambient of 70 to 75 with basking of 80 to 82. Diet standard gecko chow, crickets, black soldier fly larvae, maybe isopods, roaches. Enclosure size 18 cubed for female, maybe a little smaller for males, but I'm not too sure if lighting, UVB, shade dweller, I'd say like 6%. You want to give them UVB because you don't want to supplement them with D3 because you might cause renal failure, and that sucks. Type of enclosure setup, the bioactive arboreal. So if you do get a cube, you're going to want to, build up quite a bit, as much as you can. Supplementation, not really. Maybe D3, but not really. And are these guys okay to touch? No. Not outside of the weekly health check, maybe. Otherwise, no. These guys really shouldn't be handled like a leopard gecko or a ball python. Obviously, these guys are pretty slender built, so I wouldn't give this to a child. I would not. Yeah, definitely not a kid. Breeding. Basically, you put the male in with a female just for reproductive purposes, and you can separate them. I do not trust having a pair together continually because the male might keep picking on the female, because this species is a bit territorial. So you might want to have a second setup going if that's your plan, you know. I'm not going to be the police and tell you you can't do it definitively. Just have a backup plan. Plan B never hurts. Shared enclosure size, if you are probably wanting to keep a pair together, probably an 18 by 18 by 24 would probably be the minimum. No brumation. Clutch type, they didn't really say whether or not they were soft or hard, but they did mention that you're getting at least 1 to 2 eggs. 1 to 2 eggs per clutch, and I'm not too sure on the type of eggs. Incubation of 70 to 100 days. It really didn't say what temperature the eggs were going to incubate at, and they didn't really mention what temperature the sexual determination takes place. So just guessing by the normal temperature that they are going for, maybe 60% to get more females, and closer to the higher 70s for males. I think that would be a good estimate. Obviously, didn't see anything about that. I'll have to look through videos to confirm, or just to correlate, because I don't want to give you guys information without having some kind of credibility to it. So here are hard eggs / soft eggs and incubation temps. These are the 2 questions. Everything else seemed pretty it seemed pretty cohesive. All the information we have at a glance. That's why it's called bird eye view, because I'm looking at all of this information at a glance. At a glance, all the information pretty much corroborates each other. It's just the breeding is a little, little out there. Yeah. Well, great looking gecko, yeah. Very, very, very beautiful gecko. Now, from what I understand, a Malaysian has this really nice patterning on it, and the Borneos might look like this. Less pattern, a lot more clean. Something more like this guy. But again, I'm pretty sure it depends on the individual to individual. But again, guys, if you are planning to get into these guys, make sure that if you get a Borneo locale, breed it with another Borneo locale. There's no reason to swap them. Keep the bloodlines pure, and if you do swap them, make sure you make a note of it. And when you do sell it, tell the buyer that it is a Malaysian Borneo cross. That way they get it. They understand that even though their gecko might look a little different, there's a reason for it. That it was crossed or hybridized between localities. Because I'm seeing some of these animals here, and some of them, they look pretty cool, but some of them have like really nice high white lines. And I'm not too sure if that's just something breeders have established after a lot of breeding, or if it's a locality thing. I think I saw some down here. Yeah, this one has a really nice white line down the back. So again, it's all up in the air. Great goofy looking eyes. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure once you get these guys established, I'm pretty sure they'll breed just fine. It's just that these guys are not the handling type. They're more of a gecko just to have. Experience. Oh, look at this guy. Great line. Just having the collection, Yeah. Definitely, definitely a looker. Don't touch. All right. Let's see here. So that's the cat gecko. There's another gecko that I was really interested in looking up. It's this guy here. I have a list offhand. And I at least want to do two. Is it this one? Yeah, it was this one. No, it's this one. I think this one's an African gecko. Oh, messed up. There we go. This guy looks absolutely wicked. Look at this guy. Absolutely freaking wicked. This reminds me a lot of crocodile geckos, if you've seen those around. Of how spiky they are, but the thing with these guys, the patterning, their wickedness, the amia, you know, it has a hell of a texture. And it does this thing with its tail like a scorpion gecko. It's really cool. So when I think I found this species first on Fauna Classifieds, and it was just a scientific name listed on it, and I think there was like 2 unsexed juveniles, and the pair was going for like $1,800 or something like that. So pretty rare, pretty expensive if you want to get into them. So I'm just gonna go ahead and actually get these guys. I'm going to go ahead and get their information. Alright, again, first look at the wiki, see what's going on with these guys. And these guys I really don't know nothing about. South Africa, Namibia, and Botswana. Unfortunately, I'm not too familiar with the climates of these countries. Whether or not, I'm pretty sure they get a humid season. I'm not too sure if it's a humid hot or if it's a humid cold. There's a post on it on Morph Market. Oh, this is all cool. It was last updated on the 4th, 4 months ago. Oh, look at these guys. Oh, they're so cool. I think the tail just kills it. It's thick leopard gecko looking tail. But look how spiky they are. So cool. So they do come on the market. And I think they rarely come on the market. I don't know why these guys sold it for $350 a piece. But they are babies, so maybe he's producing them. Here's fingers crossed for, you know, hoping they're being produced. South Africa producing just me. They got that hemipenal bulge. Yeah, this guy's not providing any care information. Oh, that sucks. Yeah, they're just going over general information. Yeah, so I think in order to... Oh, that looks so cool. Yeah, see, this is the problem with some of these niche species is that really you're going to have to get a lot of your information from either third hand from the internet, or you're going to get a book to learn more about them, or you're going to have to get information straight from the breeder. Or watch a video on it. Look at that. Again, I won't watch these videos here simply because, you know, YouTube might strike me down. But it looks like there are people having them in captivity, and they're making content on them. So that's nice. So I'll go over these videos and I'll try to soak up some of the knowledge they have. I mean, look at the scalation. Oh, that's intense. I'm a big fan of Nephura asper, Amyes. Big fan of Regurnia depressas and Stochesides because of the texture of the spikes. I'm a big fan of rule of cool. If the animal looks cool, and that's most likely what I'm gonna prefer. Yeah, so there's not a lot of information on these guys here, and me looking for it here is just going to be running in circles. Sand and rocks of arid southern Africa when they disturbed. Scorpions. Ah, that's sick. So arid areas of South Africa. And again, I'm taking all of this information with a pinch of salt. Unless a person is breeding them, or they have, they're a big collector of them, I'm not gonna take all this information too close to heart. It's a publication, need a book for that. There goes this. I'll keep going until I find them. This looks like a subspecies. If you feel a little more, if you to keep alive, let alone breed, that's not good. Unique foods. Resistance. Oh, that's not good. Ugh. I'm looking at the rugosus, not. So let's see here. Ground dwelling, well footed, simple scanned. Blockhead with oversized eyes. Short tails that mimic scorpions and utilized for communication. Like a spaceman on the moon. That's pretty cool. See, some other members of this of the genus don't have that aggressive looking look. Most trying to breed Like them would be. Alright, so maybe if we keep them like leopard geckos. I'm not too sure on the type of substrate we would use. If we're going with sand, I wouldn't really want to do that. I would probably want to just... I'd probably just do like hardened clay or paper towel on these guys. Yeah. They come from arid areas, so they probably won't need too much humidity. But there's no numbers here. But nah, this is it's a shame. There's not a lot of information here. It looks like there are people making videos about them though. Or not a common gecko. 18 seconds. Another subspecies of them. But I like the rugosas. So this guy's using like a mix. Calcium water dish. I wonder... Obviously I'm going to go through this video to get as much information as I can off of it, but at this point I'd be pretty much just ripping this video off. And if this guy has them, he probably knows more than me. But the setup looks fairly straightforward. I'm not too sure if I would use this type of substrate mix. You put hot side, cool side. He probably just sprayed them down too, using mealworms, so they can probably handle harder shell bugs. Some of the geckos I have, like Ciliaris, I've tried giving them mealworms, and the feces that come out are extremely hard, and the mealworms are partially undigested. So I switched them over to red runners, and their feces look fine. But maybe the ecology these guys live in just helps them break down the mealworms, bugs with harder exoskeletons. I don't know. Again, this video was released, what, 4 years ago? I think this is pretty much the only video on them, if I look up YouTube. This is just a burner. Yeah, no, this is... Supreme Gecko put out a video on him at least. I don't know. It's a rare gecko. Yeah. So basically, it's just this guy's video, and maybe Supreme Gecko's video, but it's not directly on the same species. That's a shame. But as to the mystery of it, right? So unlike the cat gecko, where I was really able to dig in and there's a ton of information that kind of repeats itself, it's really nothing here. It did mention that they were web-footed, so they were able to climb sheer surfaces. I don't know. Very, very cool gecko. Very cool gecko. This one has a regrown, so this is probably what a regrown tail looks like. Compared to this glorious chunky tail that they use to mimic scorpions. Hemipenal bulges for the adult males. Very, 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 very cool. Very cool species. And you know, it. I was just browsing around on a forum, and these guys just randomly popped up. So never be afraid to go around looking for stuff. I use Fauna Classifieds. Morph Market sometimes has really weird geckos that sometimes pop onto the market. Just recently, I think. I don't want to say recently, but I think a couple of months ago they came out with the robustus, the rough-snouted, greater rough-snouted gecko. I've never seen these things before. It looks like a cross, like an ugly cross between a lychee and something else. Very ugly looking gecko, but a very thick, chonky tail. Very unique animal. But look how prehistoric that thing looks. It's very cool. Yeah, but I think this is the only specimen I've seen. And it's only a male, you know. It was born 17. I'm not too sure on the lifespans of these guys. And they're fecundity, whether or not this guy will be sterile for, you know, years to come, or if he's getting on with age already. So that's all information, you know, you gotta know when you're getting into these things. And some of these geckos are so rare, people just buy them up and they have them as pets. I think it's a real shame, because if you're not looking to breed these guys and try to get them out to more people to, you know, have an alternative to leopard geckos, you know. I love viper geckos, the little vipers, because they're basically leopard geckos but a fraction of the size. So if, you know, someone doesn't want to hold a leopard gecko, I would highly suggest getting a viper instead. But these guys, they might have similar care, though. Leopard geckos and all of them, and that species and that genus comes from like the Middle East. Their living conditions might be similar to the ones in South Africa. Similar enough, at least. I'm not too sure whether they're nocturnal or diurnal, if they'll need UVB. Most likely they would, if they live in the desert. Just to be sure, you know. I would personally give them UVB. But it looks like this looks like a night shot, so they might be up and about at night. Most geckos are probably nocturnal. Yeah, but that's them. Yeah, this is one of the geckos that kind of, like I said, came out of nowhere. And I'm sure talking about things that kind of came out of nowhere. I remember years ago I was at a... Sorry guys, I'm probably gonna pack it up in like 10-15 minutes. There's this snake. Oh, Ectodermis. I actually I live in California. There was the Sacramento Expo, one of the larger expos in Cali, and they were selling one of these bad boys for like $300. And I immediately fell in love with this thing. I'm sure you guys, if you guys, you know, watch or look at reptile content, I'm sure you've seen these guys around. I think Clint from Clint's Reptile Room made a video on these guys with Creatures of Nightshade, and I think that's the only big video I've seen of them. It's produced since. I've tried to follow up with Creatures of Nightshade to see if they've had any success with these guys, but I didn't. They really haven't updated anything. The reason why I love I mean, look at their face. Look at their face. It's kind of derpy, you know. It's like a sand boa face, you know, like beady eyes. It's kind of derpy. Um, oh, talking about Clint. Um, and then these protrusions on the spine, absolutely fantastic. Oh, very unique looking species. And like I said before, I go with rule of cool, and so I absolutely love these guys. Look at that. Um, but like I think their diet, their care is so specific, and they stress really easy. And so while you're trying to dial it down to what they need, they're deteriorating. They're frog eaters. There's a picture over here of them eating a frog. They're frog eaters, which doesn't make things easy. But of course, if you're really wanting them, you can always get a supply of frogs. The tadpoles, I've seen them eat tadpoles, fish, like minnows and stuff like that. So I think this much harder to keep. I don't think you'll be able to keep these things unless you really, really want them. On top of that, I think they like it cooler. Like, what are they called? I think they're like bamboo rat snakes that really like it cool. They need it to be not aquatic, like semi-aquatic. You know, a bit of the enclosure needs to be waterlogged, because you know they're probably hunting on the pond on the pond's edge for frogs and stuff like that and minnows. So it's the care is really hard to to keep. But I'm pretty sure with a large enough enclosure. But then again, would an enclosure that big be worth keeping this animal? You know, the temperature, the care. You know, and even if you do, let's say you get a captive bred pair, you manage to get them situated. You manage to reduce their parasitic load, and they're doing okay. You get them to breed. These guys, I'm pretty sure we don't have any information on how to keep their eggs, how to incubate, how damp they want it, how damp the eggs need it, what the incubation time looks like, whether they're sex determinate with temperature, sex determination with temperature. You know, everything's kind of up in the air with them. And if when you do produce them, you'll probably want to keep all the hatchlings back, right? Because I think the hatchlings are going to be a little bit more resilient than the parents. So getting these guys into the hobby is going to take a long time. And I'm not too sure if people are going to be willing to, do all of that work, and then people import them for $300 a pop. Obviously the people that get them for $300 a pop are going to eventually get a dead snake, because this thing is is an obstacle course, and most people don't buy animals thinking they're getting an obstacle course. So they might deparasitize, I don't know. But I think that's as far as they'll go in terms of care. I don't know. Yeah, so dragon snake and the rugosus. These two animals here probably up there on something I want to keep an eye on. I'm for sure if these guys come up for sales anywhere else, I'm probably going to try to snatch them up. Even if, they're $10 or $100. Hopefully they're not more than that. And then the dragon snake, I'm pretty sure if you're able to properly breed and have captive bred dragon snakes, I'm pretty sure a group of people that understand their value would probably line up to buy them from you, because these guys they're not easy to keep. And if you can get captive bred, which are probably more hardier in captivity, no parasitic load, You might actually even be able to get them accustomed to eating things like pinky parts, rodent parts when they're younger, to get them better established, and then maybe get them off of frogs, and occasionally give tadpoles and minnows and other little fish. But it just seems like a lot of work. And unless you're like an old head, retired with a lot of time, I don't see a lot of people doing it. Yeah. But yep, the only member of its species. Very, very kinky guy. Alright guys, so that's probably that's the video. I managed to look at the cat gecko. Got all that information down for a future video when I decide to put that up. I'm back. But I'm probably going to stream these videos about once a week maybe. Just looking at the different reptiles. Because I do this basically on my free time anyway. Might as well talk to you guys or talk to myself about it. Yeah. Very cool. Alright, I'll end the stream there. I'm new to streaming, so I'm just gonna do this.